Leah Frances Avril McCaffrey was born 13 weeks premature on the 14th of February 1997, a few moments after an emergency C-section following the death of her parents in a head-on collision. Leah was formally adopted by her maternal grandparents, Mr. and Mrs. Crompton of Inverness, and lived with them in their single-bedroom bungalow until she left home to go to film school in Edinburgh in 2015 over the protests of her grandparents who would have preferred her to make the most of her childhood achievements and natural ability in competitive gymnastics and pursue a career as a professional athlete. In the 5 years that followed, Leah had numerous relations with aspiring male filmmakers of all shapes and sizes, and in first year got a tattoo of an old-timey film camera on the wrist of her right hand. In 2020, Leah moved back home and rented a small flat in the centre of Inverness, and after a small period of unemployment and the COVID lockdown, she found herself working from home as a customer care assistant for a brand of intimate accessories for ladies called Pretty Please.
Michael Greenhorn had just turned 36. His first birthday alone after Jill, his girlfriend of 5 years, left him for another man 6 weeks ago. He'd at first been confused by the big rock in his hand, but remembered that last night he had planned to throw it through the window of Jill's new partner's house. But when he got there, he realised he didn't know which house was his, and he was even less sure why he'd brought the rock back home with him. After dropping out of a university degree in economics aged 23, and inspired by his childhood love of film and a tattoo he had gotten on his left wrist of an old-timey film camera, he started his own creative agency and had found some success as a director of television adverts. Since Jill left him though, he had fallen into a downward spiral of drink and depression. He pushed away anyone who tried to offer support to him, and he laboured under the misapprehension that Jill was the one, and that he'd never love another woman again.
Except for one afternoon during the summer of 2009 when she met a young boy who was really good at skateboarding, Leah had never been in love. She often wondered if the circumstances surrounding her birth and orphanisation, not to mention the somewhat sheltered upbringing she received from her grandparents, had something to do with this. She'd been with men, she'd even had brief relationships, but at no point in her entire adult life had she ever felt that connection with another human being. She had never been particularly attracted to any man, or any woman for that matter. She had never desired anyone beyond the need to satisfy her physical needs. She worried sometimes that she might be incapable of love. Having said that, she bought into the theory that everyone on the planet has a perfect match waiting somewhere for them to eventually discover. Little did she realise that today was the day that she would encounter the man who was put on this earth just for her.
Michael hadn't been to work in weeks. After Jill left him, he asked his doctors to sign him off with depression, as he was determined to spend every hour of every day trying to win her back, and he was pretty confident he could fake depression easier than faking what he would call an actual fucking illness like the flu or, I don't know, a broken leg. He didn't normally walk this route, but today was the day that he had to go back to the surgery for a new sick line. Of course, the irony in all this was that Michael still hadn't realised that he was actually depressed.
Leah was running late for a job interview. As a rule, she didn't mind being late for things. She always hoped that by making a slight tweak to her routine, or just by doing some mundane daily tasks ever so slightly differently, that events would be serendipitously set into motion, and she'd end up meeting the man of her dreams randomly in the street on her way somewhere.
Michael was walking through town and was now about 500 yards from Leah, who was also walking through town, but in the opposite direction. This was the moment. The universe had aligned, and the fates had decided that today would be the day. Michael didn't even realise he wanted someone new in his life. He couldn't see that his ex was like Wilson the volleyball, and no matter how fast he paddled towards her, she would always be just out of reach of him. It was time for him to get back on the raft and start rowing for shore.
And that was that. Neither looked back, although both considered it.
If they had, who knows how the story would have ended.
A popular modern consensus states that there is someone for everyone, as long as you can find them.
But the odds of you finding them, or recognising them when you do, are pretty heavily stacked against you.
Leah would never see Michael again. Eventually, she'd marry a man who had been married 3 times before, They would have 4 children and moved to South Ayrshire after her husband accepted a promotion at a large aerospace company. Later they would divorce after 12 years of marriage and several years of infidelity on his part.
Michael would live for another 16 minutes. He would die alone, gasping for air in an underpass as blood sprayed out from a stab wound to his neck that severed his carotid artery after standing up to 2 15-year-old boys who tried to steal his mobile phone.